There is certain land across the country the USDA classifies as highly erodible. The formula for determining which acres are highly erodible land, or HEL, is calculated by the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The 1985 Farm Bill required producers using that land to comply with certain erosion control methods in order to receive farm program payments. Every year, the NRCS conducts random compliance checks on HEL, but it's especially interested this year in working with growers on a certain issue. A recent report from the Office of Inspector General, or OIG, aims to have growers better manage certain gullies. The OIG reviewed compliance procedures across several states, including Nebraska, and one of the changes it recommended dealt with ephemeral erosion. The USDA believes gullies account for as much as 40% of soil loss on U.S. farms and hopes alternate practices will help soil stay in place. Craig Derickson from Nebraska's NRCS joined us Monday to explain the NRCS review process and describe which areas classify as ephemeral gullies.
An ephemeral erosion are those ditches that occur where we have concentrated flow, and you see them in the cropland fields around the area after harvest because they're more visible there then, and a lot of times you will see producers get out their tillage equipment like a disc or something to go out there and to try to smooth those in. And so what the Office of Inspector General recommended is that our national office produce new guidance to states clarifying the procedures that we are supposed to use to determine if a field has ephemeral erosion, and then to work with our producers to make corrective changes to better control that erosion.
The ephemeral gullies would be ones that you could drive through as opposed to not being able to drive through, essentially, correct?
Right, yeah. An ephemeral gully is one that you could still cross with your tractor and your planting equipment, but if that site is allowed to continue, it will often worsen to the point where you can't cross it with a vehicle or with a farm implement. Those are commonly called then classic gullies, and so we're really dealing with those ones that, you know, they might be 6 inches wide and 6 inches deep, or they might accelerate and expand to areas much greater than that and be difficult to cross, but generally you can still cross them with farm equipment.
So this spring you'll be inspecting randomly a certain number of tracks, and you'll be looking specifically at these ephemeral gullies to see if they're being controlled or not?
Yes, we'll be doing the same type of compliance checks that we've done in the past, evaluating the amount of residue they have, whether or not they're meeting the requirement that is in the conservation plan that they have. But we'll also be working directly with the producers to point out the areas in their field that will need better control of these ephemeral erosion areas, these ditches. And it's our goal not to just determine that a person is in non-compliance this year because of this correction that we're making. And so if we go to the field for a review and we see areas that do indeed need to have better erosion control of these ephemeral areas, we're going to offer to work with that producer to revise their conservation plan, give them a site-by-site alternative for them to implement, and then we will add that track back to the status reviews for the next year, and we'll come back and visit them again and see if they've been able to make those corrections.
Can you describe that correction process, what things they could do, and whether or not there's financial assistance that might be able to help?
Sure. You know, in sort of a traditional sense, a lot of places where we have had grassed waterways in the past, those grassed waterways were specifically there to handle this concentrated flow erosion. And I think due in part to the larger farmer equipment that's used now and the type of systems that are being implemented, there are fewer of those waterways in place than there used to be. So a grassed waterway would be one way to address the problem. But I think there are some newer and more contemporary ways also. We've seen some good examples where producers using cover crops or other grass plantings to stabilize a critical area, they can have good success with that also. So we're working with our field staff to understand a variety of practical ways that farmers can both do some do-it-yourself type of solutions, as well as if they have larger, more significant problems, they might want to sign up for financial assistance through EQIP or through the state program. Another option I would remind people of is the possibility of enrolling the land in the Continuous Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, and even the State Department of Agriculture has a buffer program that can be used for some edge of field or riparian practices.